Welcome to Imperfectly Human, the podcast where we get real about mental health, messy growth, and being human one day at a time. I'm your host, Rachel, and together we're navigating life's chaos with honesty, compassion, and a little humor. Let's get into it.
It's great to see you.
I know you too. And we could talk at the beginning too, because she'll record that. But it's amazing. Like I still periodically touch base with your mom, who just,
Yeah.
but she looks amazing herself. Like she is, talk about empowerment.
Yes. She started and joined an adult track and field team, Nubian Striders. My dad coaches it as well. So, she's been on a journey and I'm honestly super impressed. She's ran a couple
I'm
marathons.
so proud of her.
Like I'm trying to catch up to her and reach her, but it's been, a great journey
I think
seeing.
that would be the only thing that would take me out of retirement from a marathon is if Cole ever said to me, Mom, can we run a marathon together?
Yeah. I've considered it. We should all do one together,
A
pick
hundred
one and
percent.
do
But just for fun, like
it for
not for
fun. Yeah.
pace, not for fun, but just
Yeah,
for fun.
we should do it. I'm down. Now that being, out of season, I've been able to play different sports. And last week I was playing football, tennis, basketball all in the same weekend, because the
That's
weather's just starting to get
crazy.
nice up here in
And you're
Chicago.
graduating?
Yes, graduating in May.
So we'll
Yes.
talk about that. I mean,
Mhm.
so let me just introduce.
Yeah.
Welcome to Imperfectly Human. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me I have one of the most amazing young men that I have had the privilege. I have not known you for a long time, and even though we stopped having like our, Giovanni's pizzas together after certain games, I
Right,
had the
right.
privilege of getting to know Garrison Carter. And so let me introduce you to Garrison Carter. He is a senior D3 athlete at Illinois Institute of Technology, and he is from Island Lake. But not only are you a basketball player, you are on the dean's list.
Yeah.
A captain for 4 years of the men's basketball team, and over your career, you have scored more than 1,000 points, finishing among the top scorers in program history, while earning first team all conference honors and multiple all conference honors selections. So, welcome. I mean, there's so much more, and I'm not even going to go into like what you do outside because I think that is something for you to share.
Yeah.
Because what I want to really get across is kind of like, I'm just going to ask you, like, did you know from a young age that you always wanted to be a basketball player and play basketball in college? And was that your direction?
So when I was, if I take it way back to when I was born, my dad still has the videos of, when I was, a few days old and he put his high school and college jerseys on me. So I think basketball has been in my blood. I mean, he played Division I basketball at Holy Cross. My great grandfather was a Harlem Globetrotter. So
I
basketball's,
didn't know that.
yep, yep.
No way. I love the Harlem Globetrotters.
So, basketball has been in my blood. But
Okay.
for me personally in my journey, basketball has been one of those things that has I've landed here, from all the sports that I played growing up, playing soccer, football, cross country, track, the whole gamut of sports. Basketball has been the most consistent thing for me. And then,
Right.
within the last 8 years, I've really locked in with the seriousness of it and really trying to maximize my potential with that sport. But
Okay.
basketball has been with me day one.
So let me ask you a question real fast. So did you feel pressure to choose basketball with between your dad and your grandfather? Or like, because it sounds like you did a lot of other sports.
Yeah, no, basketball definitely was not pressured onto me.
Mm,
It's something I wanted to choose when I
love
became of
it.
age. Yeah.
Okay. And so were you always like in the top shape of your life, like you seemed to be when I met you?
My shape has always changed. I've always been someone that has been talented and able to play basketball, but to really
Okay.
reach the levels that I wanted to achieve, no. I
Mm,
have gone through, multiple journeys of, getting into the best shape of my life. And it's not just a physical journey, but also a spiritual and mental journey
yeah.
that I went on. And, what you see today is not what you saw 4 years ago, is not what you saw 8 years ago. And, I'm glad I definitely went down that path.
Right. One thing I mean, for full transparency and disclosure, like I know Garrison personally, but I remember one of the first things, and I just said this to you a bit before we started, when we met, like obviously you and Cole played together, you guys were very close. And I remember when we went down and we all sat down for pizza and the kids, and it was like before season even started and things like that. And everybody was ordering stuff. And like you stuck out to me because you ordered like healthy meal, right? Like not just the pizza and you didn't order anything to drink. And then you shared your journey. And I remember thinking like, wow, I wonder if this is really hard for him. Because I mean, let's just be honest, college kids go to college, you have this whole stigma of like, what does that look like, right? You go, you party, you get, but you're an athlete and you had other friends that were athletes as well. And you still stuck your course. Like
Yeah.
you shared your story about your weight loss
Yeah.
and all that. And so share that a little bit. Like what made you
Yeah.
get to that space?
So my journey and to give all of you context, so my junior year of high school, going into my senior year of high school, I lost 40 pounds going into my senior year, and that journey quite literally changed the trajectory of everything that I was able to experience in college. And it
Hmm.
was more than just the number. I think for me, I had a conversation with my dad during COVID, and we really had a heart to heart about what I wanted my future to look like and what college, potentially playing college basketball could look like because
Hmm.
I didn't play basketball my junior year because of COVID, and
Mm.
that it was a struggle mentally because you go
Yeah.
being in the Sweet 16 with your brother on varsity in high school, that tournament run getting cut short, the best season the school's ever had up until that point in history. And, it all just stops. You don't know when it's going to start up again. You're not around your friends anymore. It's just a different environment. And,
And the
I kind
structure
of,
that you had
yeah,
probably was
structure
basketball.
wasn't there, right? You're
Yeah.
online in school, playing video games, doing all that stuff. And like, you think those are the things that are fun as a kid, but, I didn't really have a perspective on like how that could actually impact my future. And my dad sat me down and he's like, if you want to play college basketball, if you want to create something even beyond basketball for yourself, you're going to need to make a change. And not just a change physically, but the change with being much more attentive to my goals and understanding what it takes to get to where I want to go. And part of that process of me becoming a better athlete, becoming a
Mm.
more mentally tough individual, becoming someone that, could position themselves to be good for his high school team, but also playing in college. Um, the weight loss kind of just came with that because I was
Mm.
doing things I had never done before, trying things that pushed me out of my comfort zone, and to lead all the way up to that dinner when I'm ordering things healthy, it wasn't necessarily hard for me because
Right.
A, over time I had challenged myself to get used to it and just tell myself that this is the new normal and it's not just a diet that I'm doing for something, but rather a lifestyle change that I can carry not just through my college career, but also after my college career, and I can actually lead a healthy life for my family, and hopefully impart those things on my, Lord willing, kids one day down.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey, not just physical, but mental and everything else as well.
But the fact that your father had that conversation with you and also said it's your choice, basically, like you get to choose, right? Because it wasn't just because dad played D1 ball doesn't mean that you're guaranteed,
Nope.
right?
Nope.
And as we know that, like we know what that looks like, right? So you chose to make changes. And then, so did you know at that moment prior to that, like freshman, sophomore, junior year, that you wanted to play college ball, or you just were like, oh, I'm good at it? Kind of almost sounds like you took it for granted how
Yeah,
good you were.
for sure. I definitely did. I had the opportunity to play quarterback on the JV football team my freshman year, and some things went on that really had me understand my priorities. That basketball was the sport I wanted to play, but I didn't really fully, truly embrace what it took to
Mm.
compete and get to that level to position myself to do that. So the journey I went on allowed me to really see what it took to put the actions behind the words and dreams that I had, and then take that next step to position myself to do what I want to do.
Which is a rare thing because many talented kids don't work very hard because it just comes easy. And I
Right.
think sometimes that can be a hindrance, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you then not only took the ability to be talented that just came, but you said, you know what, I'm going to make a shift.
Right.
I'm talented, which you recognize.
Mhm.
And if I want to get here, I need to do more.
Exactly. And one of the things that I lived by was, you heard the phrase like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
But on top of that, when I understand that when I'm getting compared to other people, and I know you don't want to necessarily like internally be like I'm comparing myself to people, but when I am compared in a list of recruits, what are the things that are going to separate me? It's the little things and it's the details that most talented kids don't even pay attention to.
Right.
And I was able to actually, learn those things and apply them and then eventually reap the benefits of them, through the ups and downs of,
Right.
coaster of my experience.
So what made you choose to go the route you did? I mean, obviously I'm thrilled that you did because that's how we got to meet you, right? Like I think everything happens for a reason, right? I mean, I know why Cole wanted D3 versus other schools, right? What was your reasoning? Especially dad being in D1 and
I knew I wanted basketball to be a part of my experience. I knew that, I was a great student. I got a full ride academically to go to Iowa State. I got into my dream college, Ohio State, at least for the honors college and the business program.
wow, I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so there were a lot of great academic opportunities that I had. People throw around you can maybe walk on and do this, but being a walk on doesn't necessarily guarantee you an opportunity to compete for time and to play. So I had to be realistic with, what I was projected to be able to, the level I was be able to play at, and it was looking like it was going to be Division 3. And, I really once, I went through the recruiting process. I played at a high academic showcase. Coach Gray saw me play. That kind of got the ball rolling. And then, since I knew I wanted to play basketball and I knew I wanted to go to a great academic school, after all the due diligence of picking the right school, Illinois Tech became, the place I wanted to go.
Right. And so you didn't just excel. Let's just be clear here, right? Because I think there's a big misconception about athletes that go to college, right? That they're not bright, that they don't attend class, like they just play ball or they play football or that's not, I mean,
Hard.
that's so far from it at IIT for sure.
You have to be in class on time, doing your homework. Like professors, and one could almost say to a fault, the university doesn't have much of a marrying between athletics and academics, and there are
Right.
some, challenges there. But honestly, if they didn't hold us to that high of a standard and just gave us a pass because we were athletes, I wouldn't be, educationally where I need to be right now
Right.
when you're going into, what's next. But the one thing I'll add about, going into being a college athlete and even the journey I went on, a lot of people are afraid to fail. And,
Mm,
that is the one thing that I've been personally working on. I still work on it now because growth is uncomfortable.
yeah.
And, the things that I was asked to do, and, I think it shaped my mindset even going into college is like, I'm just going to work as hard as I possibly can and try and do everything that I can to position myself for success. And I came in my freshman year saying, I'm going to just let the chips fall where they may.
Right.
And whatever happens, happens. And this is just growth for me. I don't know what it's going to look like. And you talk about success and being an instant success. It's like, that's where like I feel like anxiety can come from, overthinking, all those types of things that I've dealt with, um,
Yeah.
being unsure of your own abilities because you're trying to produce an outcome and force an outcome that
That's
may
it.
not necessarily be the case for that time. Not to say it won't come, but
Right.
I was able to just kind of like release those things as best as possible, uh,
Yeah.
and truly enjoy the experience and enjoy the ride.
I think that's so amazing because I was gonna, and that was my next question. Obviously, I mean, I obviously working with high performers and also athletes, a lot of them are so focused on the outcome
Right.
that they forget the whole middle part, right? And they're so focused on, am I going to make that shot? Am I going to get this stat? Like that they then almost become paralyzed
Right.
that they're not even willing to play properly and forget why they started playing in the first place,
Yes.
right? So how did you handle that? Like, how did you learn that? Like, was there support from you know, the school? Like, did they offer you counseling? Did they like, because a lot of people, and let's just be honest. I mean, because I know you and I know my son, right? Mental health and challenges are not really spoken about amongst the locker rooms, especially men,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
But you learned something that I mean, I'm 54 and I still work on like that whole perfectionistic thing and like trying to get out of my comfort zone and growing, right? Because if we don't continue to grow, then we're like kind of stagnant. And then what's that, right?
Yeah.
But you learn something that a lot of people don't get to learn of how to manage that mental internal struggle of like, the thoughts that pop in, like, I don't want to take that 3-point shot because I'm not going to make it, right? Like, where did you learn that? How did you deal with that? What was the growth,
I think a lot of it comes down to faith, if I had to put it in one word.
Okay.
I'm a Christian. I think my relationship with, Jesus and God has definitely helped me overcome those fears. And then the people that God has placed in my life, my parents, my mom and dad, I was on the phone with them a lot. I mean, we meet every single week. to talk about things going on. And, even though I may not necessarily have gone to therapy with a psychologist or whatever the case may be, like they were my therapy,
Yeah,
I knew that I could talk to them about anything. They knew me, they know me the most, obviously, because they're my parents. And, through those sessions of just talking to them about different things and then really trusting the work that I'm putting in, you just kind of just give it over to God. And I just eventually just gave it over to him and just
I
knew that
love that.
everything's going to work out, if it's what, many of the plans that a man has, but the Lord's, path prevails essentially. And like, I just had to surrender all those things to him and just trust that I'm going to make the right decision and a next play mentality that however it plays out, it's not something I did right or wrong. It's just feedback for me to learn from, and then I can
That's it.
stuff going forward. So
Right.
that's
It
what I
doesn't
took.
define you. It's not defining who you are. Any whether it be a mistake, whether it's a shot that you didn't make, or it doesn't define your journey. It doesn't define who you are.
And I think speaking into like the last couple of years that I've even experienced, like we had, my freshman year when Cole was there,
Yeah,
I miss him so much. We talk all the time, and
I
like,
know.
the sophomore and junior year experience that I had having, 6 wins and then 4 wins, that was probably one of the toughest things that I did not expect. And, it really forced me to really deep and think deeply about what I really wanted in life and where my identity truly lied. And I'll let you kind of ask more questions if you want, but that period right there really embodies what you just mentioned about me being a basketball player is not my identity.
Well, and that's the thing, because I think that many people probably would have jumped ship,
Hmm.
right? My team is not winning. We suck. Like all these thoughts that are going through your mind. But I mean, I know just from the experience of even being there for a year and a half, like what that family looked like. Like
Right,
that's truly like with Coach Gray, and like that's truly in Coach Newton. Like, and Loke, they're like your family in a lot of ways,
right,
right? But also you're not just a basketball player, you are a student athlete. And
right,
I think that whole piece, like, and I remember like that you are a student before you are an athlete,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And I love that, you have that piece that you brought to that awareness of faith. And for my listeners, like it doesn't mean you have to have this type of faith, but faith of any kind, right? I mean, you could have a belief that it is what it is and it's going to work out the way it's meant to, right? And even if you don't have a belief in God, you could still have a belief in the tree outside that could be your higher power, right? That just the belief. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but there are
Right.
many people that struggle with that belief in God. And that doesn't mean you still can't just accept that things are going to work out the way they're meant to work out, you know? But
Mhm.
your faith is what really has grounded you.
Right. It
And
is.
and I can totally respect that and appreciate that. And I love the fact that I remember you guys would say that you guys would have these like Sunday conversations, right? Like that you would have that little huddle, that family get together and those calls because for many kids, I think there's a lot of embarrassment or a lot of shame of being able to talk about like mistakes, but also like weaknesses. And it doesn't mean that you are weak. It doesn't mean you are broken. It
Right.
just means how can I strengthen this part of myself that doesn't come naturally,
Right. Right.
right?
That is 100% true. Because like after with the way that college sports is now, with NIL money getting paid out and with the transfer portal being as accessible as ever and athletes just jumping ship,
Yeah,
I'm being honest, after, last year and the injury that I had halfway through the year, the way that the things were, looking and most of my teammates were leaving, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to come back here. Like I was on that ledge of just being like, I'm done. This is
right.
years of craziness, and I want to explore something else for my last year. And, if I'm being honest, my dad talked me off that ledge because we looked at more than just, you know, the situation I'm in right now. Like,
Right.
I'm about to graduate with an amazing degree. I'm, really close to achieving some certain accolades, at a personal level. And he really helped me, find that belief. And even throughout this year, meeting my teammates and just the environment that we created and actually having a better year than we had last year, that belief that I had, not just in myself, but in my team and
Yeah.
what we accomplished, like I had to regrow that and really pray over it because, mentally I was going through it. You're 20 pounds heavier coming because, I had an injury where I couldn't even walk for like 4 or 5 months. You're questioning like if I'm even like the same player
Yeah.
that I was back then, and like you don't even know who your teammates are. And there's just so many like unanswered questions that I had going into this year that, I really did just have to give it over. And, it did create a lot of overthinking, a lot of stress.
Mm,
One could even say depression at a point because like it was almost like, what's the point?
right.
And there's a whole other world of like things that I've experienced in my life and over these last 4 years that have opened my eyes to like really getting to the core of why I do the things that I do. Because you start to look at like, why am I doing this? Is it because of validation from others, like the support that I'm getting? Like, and if I'm being honest, at this school, it's different than going to like a bigger school where you have 5,000 people watching you every night. Most games, it's just your parents
Right.
or whoever else may come in, periodically throughout.
100%.
And like, I got to a point where I was like, it doesn't matter if there's 5,000 people or two people. I just know that like if my parents are there, my family is there, I'm not playing for anything else, but I want them to see me give my 100%, give my all, and then the results and performance, they're not really caring about that too much. As long as
Right.
I'm doing what I need to do, they find happiness in that, I find happiness in that, and then, I was able to just take it one day and one game at a time.
Right. That goes back to the why you started, why you went to IIT, right? I mean, let's be honest, every kid I think that goes to a school similar to IIT knows that they're not going to a 80,000 populated school that
Right.
has a huge football team and that this sports is, right, the
Hmm.
money thing.
Right.
People go to IIT for a lot of different reasons, but I think it goes back to the why,
Right.
like and you enjoying what you do.
Right.
That's important
It is.
for
And
sure.
and sometimes, when things are a certain way, it's really easy to fall into that mindset of like the blame game. Why is this person not doing this? Why is this school not doing this? And this kind of speaks to the other roles that I have on campus. I
Yeah,
decided
so
like,
speak to them a little bit because I know you gave it to me
yeah.
in your bio, but I want because you have so much more than just the stats on the board,
Hmm.
right? So speak
So
about like what else you have done because you've accomplished. I'm so proud of you, Garrison,
thank
because
you so much.
you have accomplished a lot. And for my listeners who don't know Garrison, like not only has he accomplished a lot, but you've accomplished a lot, but you have stayed true to who you are. You have never wavered from that. You are a family parent, and you have a brother who played basketball also in a very competitive school,
Yeah.
right? And that would have been very easy to pop on over there and like play with him.
Right.
I mean, there's no question that I'm pretty sure like that was an option at some stage. And you didn't
Mm.
because not many kids can say they have a lot of integrity. And I know that you guys came into each other's lives because both of you have integrity. And um, so, yeah, I mean, my listeners don't get to know you like I know you, but like I've seen that. I've watched you play. Not only that, I've seen how you interact with your family.
Yes.
And so tell us about all those accolades that you've
Yeah.
done off the court.
So off the court, right? I was talking about, the blame game and why, certain things are the way they are, and it can be a real um, reason for someone to be like, I give up, I quit. This isn't the thing for me. Well, I decided, well, instead of looking at these things as complaints and why things aren't the way they are, why not create something? And how do I
Mm,
create something? It's by pursuing different opportunities within the extracurricular space of the university. So my freshman year, I joined the student athlete advisory committee. I was nominated by my coach to join that with another one of my teammates. And within that, we're responsible for ensuring the well-being and the progression of our student athletes and having them feel supported in not just their sport, but in the academics and life, and creating events and just having a lot of initiatives to creating that experience that we want out of, being a student athlete at Illinois Tech. And, I went from being a representative to having my own ideas, and I ran for president, and I became president of the student athlete advisory committee, which is unheard of to be a president as a sophomore.
that's
Usually it's
awesome.
juniors and seniors. And I had this
Hello,
great
but also captain of the basketball
and
team.
captain of the
I mean,
basketball team
come
my freshman
on.
year, come back into my second year, I was like, what can we do to like turn this thing around? I remember like in high school, you almost started to kind of take it for granted. Like we had a pet band of almost like 100 kids by the time I was a senior. You
Right.
smelled the popcorn coming in, like, those types of things weren't happening at Illinois Tech. And I'm like, how can we make this a thing? And I had this grand idea. I'm like, first we got to get engagement from the students. And one of the things I created was the back to school carnival. I got in touch with the people at Campus Life. And, I was like, let's see if we can have an official Welcome Week event because Welcome Week at every university is probably the biggest week for freshmen to come in and learn about their university and see what the culture is like
Right.
outside of their academic experience. So, I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting maybe, 15, 20 kids to show up. We tell them about Illinois Tech athletics and hopefully they show up to a game, not just our men's basketball, even though I'm a little biased, but
Yep.
every other sport. Um,
Right.
but we ended up having like 100 people show up.
Oh, wow.
We had different mini games and raffles and tickets and it was a whole thing. And, we thought it was a great year. And, there's some things with budget that we had to deal with throughout the year. So I wasn't able to fully see my vision all the way through, but it's in the back of my mind if I were to ever go work and do something in the future. But going into my second year, actually end of my first year, we decided to me and a couple other people in SAC are African American as well, and there aren't many of us on campus, but we decided what if we created a student athlete advisory committee, but for African American students. So
Mm.
we went to our advisor and we talked about it, and we created the Black Student Athlete Association, which it's not affiliated officially with SAC, but it is kind of sort of affiliated because we have a similar mission.
Right.
We just have our own niche within, the overall goal. And, we created our own. And this year, and going to my junior year, I wasn't president of SAC. Jumped over and became vice president of the BSAA. And we collaborated with SAC on the carnival that I created my freshman year. And that event ended up having 200 to 300 people the second year. And that event
Which is
alone,
amazing
which is
because
amazing.
let's go back to let's give a context of there's approximately like 3,000 students at IIT, and I believe that might even include the graduates
Yeah.
class
But
students,
yeah, on
or
campus.
right
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
campus, and 65% of them I believe are commuters.
Right.
So
Right.
you don't have like a ton of like it's not like a Ohio State, it's not like a Florida State, it's not a UF. It's a smaller school.
Right.
But you got a lot of kids to show up.
We got a lot of kids to show up, and that event alone ended up winning the 2025 Collaborative Program of the Year award, which was like
No
from the
way.
university, it was recognized as the event that had the biggest impact on student life that whole year. So, something I created as a freshman, sophomore, ended up being something that has now been running for 3 years.
That's
I ran
awesome.
it again this year. Super duper successful. And probably something that we talk about legacy, something that, I look forward to leaving once seeing it progress as I, go on with the rest of my
Right.
and now, with some things that were going on, I was eventually moved into the presidential role with the BSAA. So now I'm the president of the Black Student Athlete Association, and on top of that, I currently am a third year resident advisor at the university. So
So
when I
you wear a
talk about
lot of different hats. And see, this is the thing I love. Like it's not, you're not just a basketball player. You
right,
are so much more. Basketball may have led you to IIT,
right, right,
but you've done so much.
more,
So let me ask you a quick question because you said your dad. I want to pivot back to when you said you were questioning like why, because I think the thing that again, in my professional experience and is that back to play after injury, which
right.
many people don't talk about,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, like they give you PT and they do that, but it's such a mental thing because it's in the back of your mind. Am I going to get injured again? Am I, and so you're constantly almost protecting that boundary of like for whatever your injury was that then gets in the way of how you play,
Exactly.
right? So, what did that look like for you? How did you work through that?
When I came out of my injury last year, um, I took it really slow.
Mm.
We made sure that we went to the right doctors to get the right opinions to make sure that everything was healed 100%. And then once we figured that out, we didn't rush back, which that sounds like a good thing, But when you only have 8 months until your season starts, it's kind of hard because you feel like you need to be at a certain place by a certain time. And when it's not like that, you start overthinking.
Yeah,
And we went to a lot of different specialists and, made sure that mechanically I was operating at 100%. And once I knew mechanically I was operating 100%, there were no issues, imbalances, anything like that, because there's some residue from injuries of
of
that magnitude.
course.
Um, I was just taking it one day at a time and just going back to the things that, like when I was in my original, process of becoming a college athlete, going back to those things that I can draw back to the baseline of where I was, not to compare, but more to have kind of a guiding factor of like, this is where I'm at and where do I want to be, and then just staying consistent day by day
Right.
and just putting your head down and just stacking days to then eventually being in October, I'll be honest, I probably wasn't, you know, in the best shape, but I was good enough to do some damage. So I was,
Yeah.
you know, going into the season just telling myself to just continue to work and grow that confidence because confidence takes time and you can't force yourself or even convince yourself that you have it if, you aren't
Right.
taking those steps each and every day to do it. And this doesn't mean you have to be working and pushing yourself to exhaustion every day. It's just a matter of, am I taking the steps towards where I want to go? Whatever
Right.
that looks like. In most days it can be rest and
I
just
was just gonna say,
relax.
do you,
Yes.
I mean, I've done so much on my social media about that, but like one of the things I try to stress is that rest is part of your performance.
Yes.
And many athletes don't let themselves rest.
Right. Because
And
the culture talks about
oh,
you have to be grinding every day, all day,
right.
no
And if you're
stop.
not grinding, you're not keeping up. And if you're not
Right.
grinding, you're lazy and you're not doing your best. At the end of the day, listening to your body and giving it some recovery time is
Right.
part of that performance piece.
Right. It is.
I mean, that's why as an athlete, like as I mean, I remember for all my marathons, they have a taper week specifically to rest your legs.
Exactly.
Your legs, they already know how to run 26 miles, right?
Right.
Now you got to rest them so that it's ready to run it at the pace you want it to run.
Exactly.
And it's the same with sports. And I love the fact that you identified that and you listened to your body.
I had to. I really had to because my career literally was hanging in the balance and I needed to. And honestly, beyond the work that I put in on the court, it was actually more like in the kitchen. What am I putting in my body? Like
Mm,
I'm like you said, I'm a relatively healthy eater, clean eater, but there were some areas, that I needed to really double down on to make sure that I had the right longevity and the right things going through my system to make sure that I could perform and recover and prepare for what's
yeah,
next. So, it's a holistic thing. It's really a revolving circle of things that you really have to have in line if you want to try and
right,
be successful.
right. So let me ask you a question. When you were injured and you were having to take it slow, I mean, I'm going to presume you had the support of your family, obviously, and your coaches, because I mean, I know how wonderful they are.
Right.
Was there any worry for you about like the NIL money and things like that? And, again, that's a big piece, right? Like I had on my podcast before he's an NFL player and he talked about how his mental health really was like not good. But he was like the first person to like in his family to like get to the level where he was and the NIL money, or not even that now because he was in the NFL, right? And to stop doing that, stop playing because his mental health was literally suffering. But the balance of like, I'm kind of like helping out my family in a lot of ways,
Right.
right? And I need to take care of myself. Like, was there any, challenges there for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that I had was not so much NIL because we're, Division 3. It's not terribly big, but more
Right,
so with the opportunities that I could potentially have playing after college and pursuing a professional playing career.
right,
When I was a freshman, take to example, like if you take athleticism, for example, how high you're able to jump, the things you're able to do. Like if you want to play at a certain level, there's a baseline level of athleticism you just have to have.
right.
And if you don't have it, then it makes it very hard to make a case for, you to be considered this type of
Okay.
player prospect. And um, I really had to kind of stop chasing the ghost of what I thought what things could have been, and
Mm,
be present in who I am now. And a lot of times I'd be like, well, if I was like this, if I was how I thought I was going to be when I was a freshman, then I would be able to do this, that, and the third. But then I realized I am where I am now, and I'm actually doing things that I wasn't even doing back then, and I wouldn't have even imagined I'd be able to doing now had I not gone through what I had gone through.
Right.
In some respects, I am the best version of myself right now, not that version that I was hoping I would be at a certain point.
Right.
And, even now I'm still getting back to where not getting back, going to where I really want to be.
Right.
Uh, and, things are starting to slowly come back, not necessarily at the rate that I would have hoped, but they're coming back good enough to where I can feel confident that the steps I have been taking and the steps that I'm currently taking, whether it's a professional playing career or not, is going to set me up for success in whatever I decide to do.
Right. So what is it that you want to do after this? Such a loaded question, right?
That's a
Because I
loaded
know,
question.
like, we've talked about that. Like,
Mhm.
I know, like,
Right,
what, like the talent, right? And we talked about, like, do you want to play pro after, right? And that's, again, a big piece of like many athletes that they think they have to go on. And if
right,
they choose not to, what's wrong with them? But the reality is, many people choose to experience that basketball, football, lacrosse, whatever it is during college,
right,
knowing that, you know what? I actually don't want to do that anymore.
right. I
So
think
what's next for Garrison Carter?
that is the loaded question that I've been wrestling with for the last couple few weeks. Um, I do. If I do decide to pursue a playing career, it would most likely be overseas.
Yeah,
What level it is overseas, I haven't quite dove into that yet. Or if not, finding a way to, work myself into the front office of a sports team, whether it be basketball or football, coaching, something to stay around the game. Because like I said, my experience with basketball has been more than just putting the ball into the hoop. It's
right, right.
not just impacting, my life, but impacting others. I mentioned for the last 4 years, I've been a youth basketball coach, camp co-director and camp counselor for Nike basketball camps up
Oh
here
my
in
God, I
Chicago.
love that.
So that experience has really opened my eyes to just how the game can impact people and then the influence that I have and just, the energy and personality that people tell me that I have when I talk to them and how easy I am to talk to them and those types of things and the real life experience that I share with people with my life, I
Yeah,
want to continue doing that. And I feel that basketball has been my mode of personal development and discipline up until this point. And whether I'm playing or not playing, I want that to continue, whether that's in my life or somebody else's life.
right.
So in the next couple months, I'm sure I'll be making a decision on what I want that to look like. I know I got into graduate school at Northwestern to
Oh
study
my
sport.
gosh.
Uh,
Congratulations. That's awesome.
So, I'm really trying to find out what, the next steps are, whether it's, being a GA or doing something related to the team. If not there, then somewhere else. But, you know, really being at rest with my college career because, one of my teammates asked me, he was like, you ready to graduate? You ready to be done? I'm like, if I'm not ready to be done, that means I have regrets, and I have no regrets. So whether my playing career continues, which I believe if I do continue, it'll be more so to either A, check the box, but also maximize the potential that I still believe that I have.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to get paid to play basketball and that be a huge, influence on whether I decide to or not decide to. Knowing I still have some in the tank, not because I didn't leave it all on the floor in college, but because I believe there's more I can do.
right.
But if I'm not playing, then continuing to stay around the game in any capacity that I can and hopefully make a career out of it, and work my way up to the big league somehow.
You will. I'm pretty optimistic of that. I mean, I because you are very dedicated, you're very determined. And the nice thing about I think like even going overseas is that it doesn't have to be now.
Right.
Right? Grad
Right.
school doesn't have to be now. It doesn't have to be, either or. It can be both, and they just may be at different times. So
Exactly.
I'm confident that you will figure it out. It will come to you when it's meant to come to you.
Thank you. I'm just been praying a lot about it. My parents have been giving me good advice as they always have been. And, I haven't, even with last year, whether I was going to stay or leave, it was like, I believe the Lord told me just to be still and he'll work it
Yep.
out. Ended up working out where I'm staying and I played it for another year and
Yeah.
accomplished so many things and finished what I started. And I think this is the same exact thing. I'm just being still and allowing things to work. And whatever happens, happens. And I'm sure we'll be having another conversation about how it all ended up playing out,
Right.
it'll all work out in the end.
I think that's one thing that's so important is just being still.
Yeah.
Sometimes being still, which many people are really uncomfortable with,
Hmm.
right? Especially in the athletic world. Like if you're not, like you said, if you're not doing like two a days, right? Like, sometimes then you're not growing, but sometimes being still allows you to grow just in different avenues.
Sure. It does. And honestly, when you talk about growth, I feel like growth only happens when you're having fun. And a lot of times when there's pressure to perform, you're the man that people look to for things to happen. A lot of pressure can get put on, I put a lot of pressure on myself, it's not a
Right.
bad thing, which I have high standards for myself and
Yeah.
to, meet those standards, but I forget a lot of times to just have fun and just enjoy what I'm doing. And, when I have fun, I think I'm at my best. So,
Well, I can attest to watching you and Cole play. And I remember, like I'd say to your mom, like when they go back to just having fun on the court, like both of you performed so much better because you weren't overthinking. You weren't worrying about not making it or if you were going to be pulled out or you were going to get on the bench or you just played.
it is. And, honestly, with how Cole and I's relationship has grown, I would have thought, my freshman year that we'd be walking on senior night together,
Yeah.
playing our college career out together. But, God had other plans. And I feel like our relationship hasn't wavered in the last 4 years, even though we're thousands of miles apart. And, we've been lockstep. We talked a couple weeks ago and, that whole concept of having fun and doing what you enjoy and, really finding that, I think he's done that. And I commend him for it because
Yeah.
things that he's been able to do. I'm asking him questions about his
Yeah.
experience, and trying to figure out how we can, how I can learn from him. And, one day we might be working together again,
I have
So,
no doubt because as I'm listening to you, I'm like, this sounds like Cole, like this, because I have no doubt the two of you are very bright, motivated, talented young men.
right.
And I think the future is like yours,
Yes.
you know? And I
Uh,
think the fact that both of you continued to intentionally like connect,
Right.
after, you're right. Like he made a choice that he wanted to know what he was like without ball. And
Right.
what's crazy, and I always laugh, but like him being a manager of a D1 men's basketball team, I say to him, I think you're working harder now than you did when you were a player, right?
Right.
And he is, and it's such a and it is a beautiful thing to still get to see him in his element. And you know what's nice about that too, Garrison, is that because he was a basketball player at college level, right? And even if that was for a year, right? He is so respected because he knows the sport
Right.
and like the players respect him, the coaches respect him.
Right.
And but he also had the drive and that work ethic that you guys got from being student athletes.
Yes. And that experience alone, I believe that will carry into every aspect. And it already has carried into other aspects of my life, but like being a student athlete is different. Not to
Yeah.
knock any other major or any other path going through higher education, but like specifically the experience of a student athlete is one of a kind. And
Mm-hmm.
you can tell a student athlete, no matter the sport, without even probably telling you that you're their student.
100%.
You
I
can.
agree with that.
If I'm just gonna speak, last thing about, Cole is like for me to only have been around him for a year and a half
Yeah.
in person, I can confidently say that he's become one of my best friends in just a short amount
Mm,
of time. And most people think like, once you go off to college or once you, go and, do other things, those relationships end. But I've actually seen a case and I'm living a case where time and space just doesn't determine how much a relationship can grow and continue to grow. It just takes both people willing
absolutely.
to connect and stay up to date and, continue growing that friendship, together.
Absolutely.
So, so yeah, we talk about it all the time.
Well, I just am so thrilled because I think that, for my listeners and especially for the young people like who have a dream of playing, sports, if they don't have that path for them, whether it be college or after, it doesn't define who you are at all. And that's really important because it's a sport, right? And yeah, it's a great sport and it can lead to a lot of things. And you're more than a sport.
Right. More than a sport, 100%. And like those details, like that, coach may be on you about, about making the right cut or making the right pass, or if it's a good shot or a bad shot. Like those things I saw really quickly like translate into like, am I making my bed every day? Am I brushing my teeth? Am I cleaning my room? Like those types of things, those types of details that you can apply like in your life right now, even
Absolutely.
before you become an athlete, like those things will translate when you actually go do what you want to do
Yep.
because becoming a college athlete starts before you become a college athlete. Becoming a professional in any field starts before you become a professional in any field. And
Yep.
like the more that you can connect those things in your life to what you want to do and where you want to go, that's where you're going to really start to see that growth each and every day outside of doing the thing that you really want to do in the future.
Right. So
So
where can people find you? Because you are definitely one to follow for your journey, whether it be in sports, overseas, or just in professional business, because you are a bright young man. And I'm so excited to watch what you do because I'm pretty sure you're going to do some fabulous things. So where
ooh.
can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at garrisonc.30, and then you can just look me up on LinkedIn, and I got a big smiling face on my
You
profile.
have I will tell you, I think I told you this one. You have one of the most gorgeous smiles. I think your mom and dad both have beautiful smiles too.
Got it from them. Yep,
Yep,
definitely got it from.
100%. They both have amazing smiles.
That's one of the things my dad always is like, when you meet people and you talk to people, just whenever you can smile and show teeth, it
Yeah,
makes everyone's day better. It makes your own day better. And I always
100%.
try to just live like that each and every day.
Well, I love that for you.
You.
So thank you so much. This has been amazing. And to my imperfectly human people listening, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, follow me on any place you can listen to your podcast. Till next time,
Thank you for having me. Okay.
pleasure. Thank you for joining.
Have a great day.